Hi guys, and welcome back to the 14th of December. Just gonna start the 14th chapter today. The Christmas Mystery by Jostein Gaarder. December the 14th. On December the 14th, Joachim woke up before Mom and Papa. He sat up in bed, only 10 days left to Christmas Eve. What was going to happen to Elizabeth, the angel Ephriel, and all the others who were going to Bethlehem? Before he had a chance to open the Advent calendar, Mom and Papa were in his room. Under his arm, Papa had two large atlases. Joachim opened door number 14th. The folded paper fell on the bed, and in the calendar they saw a picture of a raft with people, animals, and angels on it. "The raft," said Mama. They sat on the edge of the bed. That day, Joachim read. Towards the end of the 9th century, a strange raft was sailing on the Po River in the direction of the Adriatic Sea to the east. The country they were sailing through was called Lombardy. On the raft were a small flock of sheep, bleating grossly because they were not allowed to drink the river water. The smallest sheep was running back and forth, and the little bell hanging around its woolly neck tinkled. Two wise men were making wise observations about the beautiful countryside they were sailing through. One of them was black and the other was white. After a long discussion about the blessings of oranges and dates, they agreed that God could not have created a better world, at least not in 6 days. At the back of the raft stood a man in Roman clothes steering with a long pole. Such clothes had only been out of fashion for a short time. He was talking to a small girl who was holding a piece of cardboard in her hands. On one side was written, "To Bethlehem." On the other was a picture of a young woman with long, fair hair. Most conspicuous were two angels in the front of the raft, beating their wings to keep the raft from drifting towards the riverbank. This was long before boats were equipped with propellers. Now and again the cherub Ephriel turned to the others and praised the beauty of the landscape they were passing. "Wonderful!" he called out. "Nothing but glory and joy! It's just as on the 5th day when God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was good!" Once or twice somebody on the shore noticed them, but the raft was seen only for a brief second. That's because it wasn't just sailing down the Po River. It was sailing through history too. It was crossing the tidal wave of time. When a little child stood on the bank of the river and pointed at the strange raft so that his mama or papa would see it, it disappeared long before the child's forefinger had time to unfold. So perhaps it was only a mirage. They passed old Roman bridges and buildings and theatres and temples. Ephriel pointed at all the churches. "I was often in this area as a young man," Quirinius told them, staring down at the long pole in the water. "But that was a very long time ago. Or the opposite, of course. I mean, it's still a good while before we get there. Dixie!" Elizabeth realized that he was talking about Roman times, when there were Roman soldiers nearly everywhere in the world. "What did it look like here then?" she asked. "The Roman theatres are still standing, the orange trees as well, and the red poppies along the riverbank. But nobody had heard about Jesus. What's new are all the churches and monasteries, priests and monks. Dixie! Dixie!" Before long, Joshua pointed at the riverbank. "We'll land over there." Quirinius steered the raft towards land, helped by the two angels, who beat the wings energetically, while Joshua the shepherd latched on to a tree with his crook and drew the raft to shore. The angel Ephriel said a few warning words to the cherub Ephriel. "If we meet any people, you must be sure to remember to say 'Fear not' in a gentle angel voice, so they will not be afraid. We're only visiting, so it's important that we behave properly. The pilgrims alighted from the raft. They passed a country church and turned uphill through the countryside. The towns were not very large at this time, but soon they were approaching one of the largest. Ephriel told them it was called Padua. Just before they sped through the town gate, they saw a man in a blue tunic. He was sitting on a stone with his head in his hands. It looked as if he had been sitting there for a very long time. Ephriel flew toward him, hovering in the air right in front of him, fluttering his wings, and said, "Fear not, and be in no wise afraid. I, Ephriel, am one of God's angels who is out only a goodly errand." It looked as if the cherub's words had an effect, for the man did not throw himself to the ground and hide his head. He said neither Hallelujah nor Gloria Dei. He simply got to his feet and walked towards them. "Then he's one of us," said Ephriel. The man offered his hand to Elizabeth. "I am Isaac the shepherd, and I'm going the same way as you." That made it much easier to guide the 6 sheep through Padua. They were followed by 3 shepherds, 2 kings of the Orient, 2 angels, 1 governor, and a little girl from Norway. Altogether, there were 15 of them. They were going so fast that the few people who were out in the streets didn't have time to look at them before they vanished. The pilgrims only just managed to see the inhabitants of the town too. When they glimpsed an early riser, the man or woman disappeared in the next instant, and was perhaps replaced by a different man or a woman. Elizabeth thought they were in the town for only half a minute, but in fact the strange pilgrimage haunted the streets of Padua for 7 or 8 long years. For that half minute consisted of 30 brief seconds, and those 30 brief seconds were divided among all those 7 or 8 years. Ancient accounts tell us that there was never so much talk of angels in Padua as during those magic years, from 804 to 811. Now and then, someone or other thought they had seen something strange in the street. Could it have been a procession of angels who had swept through the town? Outside the town walls, they stopped in front of a small monastery. "Strange to see a Roman town again," said Quirinius. "I wonder who's the emperor now?" Ephriel looked at his angel watch. "It's exactly 800 years after Christ. On Christmas Day this year, Charles the Great will be crowned Emperor of the West." "Then we'll soon be starting on a new century," said Joshua the shepherd. He struck his shepherd's crook against the monastery wall. "To Bethlehem! To Bethlehem!" Papa opened the atlas, pointed out the Poo River, and found the town of Padua. Then he turned the pages backward and forward and with his finger tried to trace the long distance the pilgrims had run. "Here's Halden," he began. Then they came down to the big lake in Sweden. That must be Vänern. From there they hurried south through Sweden to Kungälv, Göteborg, Halmstad, and Lund. They rowed across to Sjælland and visited Copenhagen. Yes, I can find it all. They rowed in Fyn and leaped through Odense. From Middelfart they were ferried across a little belt to Jutland. There they passed the towns of Kolding and Flensburg. "They travelled back in history as well," said Mamma. But Papa went on following the path they had run, with his finger on the map. "Here's Hamburg." Then Elizabeth was left lying on the market in Hanover, and yes, here, and here's Hamelin, the town that had broken its solemn promise to the rat-catcher. "You broke a solemn promise too," interrupted Joachim. "You opened my secret box." Papa continued. "Further south is Paderborn. This is where the cherub Ephriel flew down in spirals from the church tower. From there they ran to Cologne and continued up the Rhine valley, and Ephriel was quite right. It's wonderfully beautiful there." That was during the 13th century, said Mamma. Wait a moment, said Papa. I want to follow the whole route. In Mainz they met Balthasar, then it was Worms and Basil. Today Basil is in Switzerland. But Elizabeth was there around 1100, said Mamma again. Papa went on searching with his finger. Here's Lake Biel and the Lake of Genova. I found the little place called Montigny. This is a good map. Through the St. Bernard Pass, yes, today there are tunnels all over the place, down through Val d'Aosta to Lombardy and the Po Valley. Bravo, said Mamma. I just woke the dog. But the travelling through history as well, I think that journey is even a stranger one to think about. Only now did Papa look up from his map. But the flower seller made that up. I think it's true, said Joachim. Mamma nodded. Yes, who knows? Papa only shook his head. Now I wonder which route they're going to take. It's 8 o'clock, exclaimed Mamma. There was some quarrelling and scolding because it was so short on time. That's what Joachim called stress, and he thought nothing was worse. As he ran to school, many strange names were buzzing in his head. He had now seen all those places on the map. At school they had started to rehearse the nativity play. Joachim's class were putting it on in the gym on the last school day before Christmas. Joachim was going to be the second shepherd. And that ends the 14th chapter. I hope you're managing to follow along. I said I can send you pages if you want to read, see the names for yourself. Because I can understand that hearing it from me, which has like partly Norwegian version of it and partially English, it's just confusing. I get that. I totally do. So even I sometimes when I listen back to him, like, what place was that? Because sometimes when I don't know how to pronounce stuff, I just like jump over it and to continue because I'm like, I'll just skip that part. It's fine. But I realize that it's hard for you guys to hear. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. So I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Love you all. Bye.